All right, so there's a saying in professional sports, and it's a real pet peeve of mine, that some organizations out there are cursed. I'm going to push back on that and say that there's no such thing as any organization out there being cursed. There is a such thing as a lack of leadership and bad ownership serving as a hindrance to an organization's sustainable success. That is a thing. But there's no team out there that's cursed. And I've heard that term cursed get muttered about the Chargers a lot because even though this team, this organization has amassed many a winning season, they've yet to get to the mountaintop, and they always seem to miraculously fall apart when stakes are high. And the Spanos family has caught a lot of flack from Chargers fans and NFL fans around the world. However, I'm going to vouch for them here by saying that they made a decision that I think is going to change their franchise forever by bringing in head coach Jim Harbaugh. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to stand on this, I'll die on this hill. Jim Harbaugh is going to bring the Chargers its first Super Bowl in franchise history. There it is. I'm not saying that it's going to happen this year, but in Jim Harbaugh's tenure as the Chargers head coach, they will win their first Super Bowl in franchise history. Let me explain why. So Jim Harbaugh has a track record of flipping and transforming programs, teams that were in really shitty, disadvantageous situations, including Stanford, the 49ers, and Michigan. When Jim Harbaugh took over in Palo Alto and Stanford, that program was ailing. There's not much of a history at all, and wins were few and far between for the Cardinal. However, Jim Harbaugh took the wheel, worked his magic, changed the culture, changed the framework, the way of thinking in Palo Alto, gave that organization a vision, and before you know it, they were competing in Orange Bowls. They were competing for spots at the BCS National Championship. They were beating USC on the regular. They were one of the Pac-12's top dogs, believe it or not, Stanford was at one point, because of Jim Harbaugh. People wanted to come to Stanford. Highly rated recruits wanted to come to Stanford to play for Jim Harbaugh. That's the impact he had there. The 49ers. I'm a Madden guy. I have all the Madden games. I played them all growing up. I was a youngin' in the 2000s. Madden 06, Madden 07, 08, 09, you name it. And the 49ers are always a fixture at like 4-12 and 5-11. I'm like, these guys suck. But my dad would always preach to me. He was a Niners fan growing up, and he'd always preach to me, oh, they were a force back in the 80s. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice. I'm like, yeah, sure, Dad, back in your day. But they suck now. Well, that was until 2011. Jim Harbaugh took the reins and had that team immediately in the NFC Championship. And then in the Super Bowl the year after. And then the NFC Championship again. Changed the culture of the 49ers. Completely flipped the team. And gave them a vision, a sense of direction. And the 49ers were once again one of the NFL's elite teams and a Super Bowl contender under Jim Harbaugh's guidance in Michigan. Growing up, at the beginning part of my childhood, early mid-2000s, Michigan was a force. But as I got later into elementary school, late 2000s, early 2010s, they're pathetic. Remember those Brady Hoke Michigan Wolverines? I think they lost to Rutgers at one point. Well, Jim Harbaugh takes over, and just like with the 49ers, year one, there was just a shift in energy. There was a shift in the way that people went about their business in that building. There's a shift in the way that guys played, their body language, their intensity. And even though they lost multiple games and ultimately missed the playoffs in 2015, Michigan just looked different. And it was Ohio State that blocked them from getting to the playoff year in and year out until the early 2020s. But then they broke past that glass ceiling and made it to the playoff. couldn't get out of the first round initially, losing to Georgia, losing to TCU. But then eventually they got there. Eventually won a national championship under Jim Harbaugh's guidance. I'm going to stand on it. The same thing is going to happen with the Chargers. Is it going to be immediate? Is it going to be instant gratification? Everybody wants instant gratification. Is that going to be the case here? No. Chargers fans, stick with me here. Stay patient. It's going to happen. Jim Harbaugh is building this thing brick by brick. And you assess the competition around the AFC, more specifically the AFC West. Yes, the Chiefs are your dynastic force right now. And I'm not a guy that's going to bet against the Chiefs. At some point, Travis Kelce will retire. Andy Reid will retire. And that gap is going to close between the Chiefs and the Chargers. And if the Chargers build this team the right way, and Jim Harbaugh's vision, his culture is crafting, manifests itself in the way I think it's going to, the Chargers will close that gap and may even be able to make the leap over the Chiefs at some point. Again, not insinuating that's going to happen, but it's possible. This team is very much a work in progress, but Jim Harbaugh is already leaving his stamp on the Chargers. And you can see it in the way that they're drafting right now. 2 solid drafts in a row, bringing guys like Joe Alt, Omarion Hampton, Ladd McConkey. I mean, these are Jim Harbaugh guys. These are guys that he wants on his team, that personify the traits that he wants to see in a player on his team. Work ethic, grit, grinder, smart, high IQ football players, consistent football players. Omarion Hampton's going to be a star behind that offensive line. Book it. And you look at this offensive line, and that's a theme on this show. That's something that we really emphasize on this show. Offensive line. There's dogs on this line. Rashawn Slater. Good luck to any defender trying to get past Rashawn Slater. Oh. Joe Alt proved to be a dog year one. The veteran Bradley Bozeman, Zion Johnson, and a new revitalized Mekhi Becton, who really found his stride last year, has a newfound confidence about himself. That's huge, because what that's going to do is, and you already started to see it take place last year, that's going to change the entire flow of that Chargers offense. Justin Herbert will have more time to sit in the pocket, read defense, and make a well-informed, well-educated decision. Instead of being rushed all the time, he's going to be able to sit back there and process things. And for a guy with as much talent, as much IQ as Justin Herbert, that's significant. That's massive for him and the Chargers overall. The Chargers running back room, it's getting better. I mean, you've got that duo now, Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris. I think Najee Harris is a great back. Being paired with somebody, I think he's lethal. I hope he gets better from that fireworks accident. I think he should be ready. But that combo is going to be lethal. The wide receiver room, it's getting better. Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey. Love Ladd McConkey. Really burst onto the scene last year. And I think that he'll improve. He'll get even better. But like I said, there's a lot of great components about this team. And you saw them take an instant leap last year, winning 11 games after missing the playoffs the year before. And that Texans playoff game was a gauge. Absolutely. It showed Chargers fans and the general public how far off the Chargers are still, as they got walloped, embarrassed in Houston. But that's where they are now. That's not where they're going to end up, because this team is very much work in progress, and making that leap in year one with Jim Harbaugh is a testament to him and the culture that he's building, the roster that he's building in Los Angeles right now. And it's only going to get better. That was just the foundation last year. This Chargers team is only going to build on that. When I look at the Chargers right now, it's kind of like one of those houses you see being built in the countryside. You know, they're clearing the trees out. You're seeing the house we built, but some of the Tyvek is still exposed to some unfinished parts of the house. There's a lot of components of this roster that still need some help. The defensive line is a work in progress. The receiving core is still a work in progress. I mean, Ladd McConkey's great. Quentin Johnston's great, but I think the Chargers will bring in another star at some point to pair with Justin Herbert. And who knows? Maybe Ladd McConkey develops in that consistent star. I think he can. But I think there needs to be a little bit more juice in that receiving core, if you will. There's some very complete components of this team. Offensive line, quarterback, running back room. Secondaries, generally speaking, is pretty good. Defensive line and receiving core. You got to see some improvement. But it's a work in progress. So I expect them to make those improvements. Like, there's years. Jim Harbaugh is still very early on in his tenure. Rome was not built in a day. And it's something I want to hammer down here because like so many people, so many sports fans out there expect instant success. If the Chargers aren't competing for a Super Bowl this year, what are we doing? No. Jim Harbaugh is one of the greatest coaches that I've witnessed in my lifetime. Give him the tools that he needs to do and just let it develop, and the Chargers will get to where they've always wanted to go. I guarantee it. And I want to transition back into Justin Herbert here. Jim Harbaugh is the quarterback whisperer. Look what he did with Colin Kaepernick. Look what he did with J.J. McCarthy. They're both fine quarterbacks, but Jim Harbaugh helped those guys reach their absolute full potential. You can say both those guys even overperformed under the guidance of Jim Harbaugh because that's what he does with quarterbacks. He extracts all the value out of them that there is. It's like a washcloth. He wrings all the water out of that washcloth. Every seeping last bit of potential he gets out of a quarterback that he has. You can say this is the best quarterback that Jim Harbaugh has ever worked with, maybe outside of Andrew Luck at Stanford. The sky's the limit. And there's been a lot of things that we've seen with Justin Herbert these past several years that have been inconsistent. The red zone. He'll drive down the field, and then a drive will just stall. Will just unravel once he gets past the opponent's 25-yard line. Like, that's been a thing with Justin Herbert. Big games, missing big plays, missing big passes, throwing interceptions at the wrong time. Some people say, you can't coach out of somebody. But with somebody like Jim Harbaugh, I think that the partnership with him and Justin Herbert, you're already seeing it. Even though Justin Herbert had those games, like the game against the Texans last year, like when he played against the Chiefs last year, where he was shaky, he wasn't himself, you're going to see him start to make strides. And I think that Justin Herbert is going to reach his full potential with Jim Harbaugh, which is scary, not only the AFC, but the rest of the NFL. Because when Justin Herbert reaches his full potential, he can be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's not right now. There's a lot of guys that are better than him out there right now. Your Patrick Mahomes, your Josh Allens, Lamar Jacksons, Joe Burrows, Jalen Hurts, Matt Stafford. But he can get there. He can get into that conversation with those guys through the guidance of Jim Harbaugh. So you have a fantastic offensive line. You have a fantastic running back room. You have an improving defensive line. Real good secondary, improving wide receiving core. But you have vision. You have a sense of direction. And you have a quarterback who could become a Hall of Fame quarterback through the guidance of Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is giving this team a sense of direction that it lacked with Brandon Staley, that lacked with Anthony Lynn. That's what makes the Chargers terrifying. I think that they're going to get 1% better every year. They're going to get incrementally better every year. The only thing I ask out of Chargers fans here is patience. But I think you're going to see some teams in the AFC trend down, and the Chargers will continue to trend up. You close that gap with the Chiefs every year, which I think could happen. And you can eventually make that leap to being a conference championship and Super Bowl contender. I think the Chargers just improve year in, year out. And look around in 2027, 2028, and yeah, this could be a team that's realistically competing for a Super Bowl. And I think that Jim Harbaugh is going to hoist a Lombardi during his tenure with the Chargers. Laugh now, cry later. This is going to happen. Book it. That's my hot take. Let me know what y'all think of this take in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.